Welcome to Fort Worth 148's podcast, where we meet to discuss Masonic topics and strive to build value in the Brotherhood. The opinions and statements of the participants do not represent any positions or stance of any Grand Lodge or Lodge and are solely the viewpoints of the participants.
Welcome back to the Fort Worth 148 Masonic Podcast. My name is Evve Kirkendall. I am the chaplain and past master of Fort Worth 148.
I am Brandy Patton, the Worcester Master of 148.
And this is Cody Cox, the Senior Warden of Fort Worth 148.
It's still weird saying that.
It's always weird to think about. I still am very weirded out by past master. It's so weird to think about.
I'm weirded out by all past masters. What are you talking
What
about?
about? Yeah.
And I'm creeped out by past masters.
And you should be.
Yep.
Until you become one. Today, we are doing a really quick podcast because we are super excited. In about 5 days, we are going to be going off on our Lodge Summit. 148 has this event that we have started doing annually. We did the first inaugural summit last year. We did it at a ranch that we rented for the weekend.
Undisclosed location,
In
thank
a
you.
secret undisclosed location in North Texas.
It's between states. It's almost Oklahoma.
It's almost Oklahoma, but not quite. It's still on the good side.
Yes.
There's a train station nearby.
Exactly. And so it is something that was really successful last year. We had a lot of brotherhood, a lot of good things got talked about, but we also hammered out a lot of lodge business to make sure that our lodge was ready and capable to take on the next year. And we decided it was such a valuable event that we are going to make it an annual event. And so we have been putting it together. We are super excited about it. This is going to be like one of my vacation days for the year that I'm taking for it because of how valuable it is, not only to fellowship with brothers, but also just for my mental health and the things that we get done for the lodge. So we thought it would be a great idea to talk about it because we've been getting some questions. None of you guys are commenting on our podcast in the comment section, but we are getting feedback when people see us on the street or we go visiting other lodges. We've gotten some feedback, and one of the things that there were some questions about was about this Lodge Summit. We mentioned it in a couple of previous episodes. We didn't go into a lot of detail about it, and we thought it might be a good idea to just have a quick podcast before the event because we're also going to be recording a couple of episodes during the event so we can talk through some of the things we're talking through. And so if you've never had like a lodge retreat or a lodge summit, it is a great opportunity to get to know your brothers. Cody, tell us a little bit about the rough outline we talked about. Cody and I talked about this yesterday, and it was new to me, and so I thought it would be a great idea to open up the show with him talking about what we're actually going to be doing. So tell us about that.
So the way that the Lodge Summit is going to work is we're, of course, at our undisclosed location. We're going to start in the afternoon/evening. So dinner will be served at 6. We're going to have a little German fest on Friday. Get to enjoy some good German food. And then
might give you a hint of where the location is.
Yes, it might. But again, ours.
Comment down below if you might want to guess where we're going to be located.
Yeah, I guess we're going to turn this into like, where in the world is Fort Worth 148?
Carmen San
That's right.
Carmen San Mason.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know what we're talking about, you need to go and find that out. Anyway, we're going to start at 7 o'clock, and we're going to start off with prayer. So Evve's going to lead us off with that one, and then we're going to go back and look at a document that, from what I understand, was a leading document that helped 148 a few years ago start to turn the corner, so to speak. So we're going to look at that one and use that document, to get us all on the same page and in the mindset of what we're going to do this weekend. And so we're going to do that, and then we're going to go back into what we started last year, which was we have lined out the duties and responsibilities of the line officers at 148. So last year we started with Worshipful Master. We worked all the way down to Senior Deacon, and then this time around we're going to work through the stewards and things like that, just to double check and make sure that as we're moving forward as a lodge, when someone wants to make themselves available for a particular seat, or is asked by the incoming worshipful master, hey, do you mind taking on this responsibility? We can literally hand them a document that says, these are the things that you're going to be responsible for. Is this something that you feel that you can take care of? So we're going to finish that off on Friday night, and then once we're finished with that, it'll be fellowship time. And the great thing about the Lodge Summit is that it's a chance for us all to get away and to just have time as brothers. We can go outside, we can smoke cigars, we can have a nice drink, we can sit outside. And honestly, I remember last year, Evve, you can speak to this, but it seemed that a lot of the conversations that we had happened really organically. And to my best recollection, we were up until 2 o'clock in the morning having discussions about deep Masonic ideas and things like that.
Yeah, I was there briefly because I had to work the next day, unfortunately. But I stayed up way later than I should have, and I think I was there until chatting until 2 a.m. And when I say that it was that late, it wasn't like we were up drinking and being debaucherous. These were very sober conversations that were about very deep Masonic ideas, about symbolism, about meaning in one's life. It was the kind of stuff that I think Freemasons yearn for, and that's why it was so valuable for us, and why we're doing it again this year, because we're hoping. And last year, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was exclusively for Lodge leadership. We manifested it as a leadership summit, and then this year we've pivoted a little bit.
Yes.
Away from a just pure leadership model, and now we are opening it up to all Master Masons of 148. But more especially, we want to focus on those who are looking to be leaders. But anybody can come and be a part of this, because it was.
Well, the original intent behind last year, what we called it was the Lodge Leadership Summit, was the chance for us to get together as primarily people that were on the line, that were leaders, but we wanted to invite everyone. So honestly, last year we even had some EAs and fellowcrafts at the summit. And as we looked at, and we had a great time, and there was lots of stuff that was done, but when we started looking at doing it again this year, we had a serious discussion about the idea that, one, it shouldn't be focused on the lodge like leadership. The whole idea behind the summit is, if you are a member of the lodge and you want to be a part of making sure that the lodge is going in the direction that you feel that it needs to, and you need a chance to put that out there, then that's what we're going to do. This year, we did not invite fellowcrafts and EAs. This is a Master Masons only, because I know the listeners are probably going to hear this again and again, but this is also a chance for us as Master Masons at 148 to discuss family business. And I'll be quite honest, when we talked about making it Master Masons only, I was a little bit against it, but the more that I thought about it, I also look at this is one of those things where at 148, if you want to be part of everything the lodge has to offer, then you need to get your stuff done and you need to become a Master Mason.
For our other listeners who I'm suddenly realizing, because we've gotten feedback from jurisdictions who don't always know what we're talking about. So one of the things that in the jurisdiction of Texas that we do is we have a catechism that at every level, first degree, second degree, and third degree. And the first degree is quite extensive. It is substantial. And then the second and third degree are slightly smaller, but still very robust amounts of information that you have to memorize. Then you have to present your catechism back in front of the open lodge, and then they vote on whether or not they are going to accept it as considered proficient. And then that allows you to go to the next degree, all the way up to Master Mason. And then once you turn in your Master Mason's catechism, you can join appendant bodies, you can go do other things.
So you get to vote.
And the big thing is you get to vote, and you get to do all the things. You're entitled to every aspect of our lodge. And one of the things that we've done in the past, I think that we've had somewhat mixed success about, is we've allowed our entered apprentices and our fellowcrafts to participate in a lot of our events to make them feel connected, to serve as somewhat of encouragement, to get to know us better, to feel more like a Mason. And one of the things that we've also noticed is that has played a double-edged sword, that in some ways it opens up too many of being a Mason doors, and they
Was
haven't
that actually like putting in a lot of
they haven't had to, they didn't feel compelled to turn in their catechism. So we have some EAs and some fellow crafts who have stagnated. And we kind of had a conversation, and we said, and it came out of our last leadership summit, that we need to start thinking about how to incentivize our EAs and fellow crafts to turn in their proficiencies in a timely manner. And so this is one of those things that it's a 148 Master Masons only to help encourage people to come be part of this, but you have to turn in your catechism, and you have to do the work to enjoy the privileges.
And again, one of the things is that this is an investment on behalf of the lodge. For those of you that are listening, the way that the Lodge Summit works is Fort Worth 148 pays for the, pays for the location that we're at. But on top of that, we also charge like a registration fee. And the reason we did that is because if you're coming to this and you've paid something into it, it puts you to where you have skin in the game and you are a little bit more plugged in and serious about what we're trying to do, other than this is just a free event to go to and I get out of town for the weekend and that kind of stuff. So honestly, I was a little bit nervous last year when we did that, but we still had people that paid the registration fee, and I'll be quite honest, when we got there, we got business done.
A lot of business. And I know the question's probably going to come up. Where does the registration fee go? The registration fee pays for the food.
Yes.
We eat really well when we were there. We had steaks, baked potatoes, we had breakfast. We had lots and lots of food and lots of beverages. Of course, the lodge cannot pay for alcoholic beverages, and so we did not. We're talking about bottled water, sodas, juices, things like that for just general refreshment, diet and regular cola, if you will.
And if you're wondering about snacks, I'm serious. I'm going to be going to Sam's on Friday to do the shopping, and part of my list, that just like I had last year, is I'm going to be buying 2 boxes of nothing but peanut M&Ms and regular M&Ms and Skittles and Starbursts and things like that.
Chips and
all
snacks,
that kind of
things
stuff.
That in the middle of a conversation when you're talking over the vision statements for your lodge or whatever you're working on, it's good to have those snacks. So just best practices, if you're going to do an event like this, have a registration fee, have that registration fee paid for food and for snacks and for beverages, so that you're always at the best.
Yes, and I will say with this one as well, this is not a fundraising event for our lodge.
No, it is a net zero. We invested the money in the Airbnb, and the registration fee is paying for the money, and every penny and then some goes to.
Just to go further back, we used to always have a Warden's Retreat with the Corpus Christi OLT, but a couple of years ago that got rescheduled, so we stopped doing it. The Warden's Retreat, we basically rent a room, Airbnb, whatever, same thing, but this looks like a better thing to do. So that the funding for that, what are we going to call it, fraternal trip, we're using it for this now instead, which is just 148ers.
Right. So we really didn't have to add anything into our budget to solve this.
And this goes back to our conversation that we had about dues and things like that, about building value into the Brotherhood. So as a Master Mason, when I pay my dues towards Fort Worth 148, I know that portion of my dues will be used to pay for the Airbnb that I'm going to be enjoying when I'm at Lodge Summit.
And this is, by the way, all very transparent. Everybody in the lodge votes on this. This is not, it's not a secret something that your dues go to this.
No. Saturday morning, we will get up. We'll have prayer again, because Saturday is going to be a big day. We're going to start off on Saturday with talking about rules and regulations. For those of you that don't know, Fort Worth 148 has adopted Form 23. And so when it comes to our bylaws, we are no longer having to vote on bylaws. We've already got Form 23. So our rules and regulations is something that we can control, and that's where we're going to be putting those things formally together. We've had some of that kind of stuff, but we're using this as like the formal way of us to come together and do the rules and regulations and bring that back to the lodge and say, here's what we decided. What do you guys think? And then, of course, we're going to hold over for a meeting. So we'll present those, hold over, and then at the next meeting, we'll vote on those as being our rules and regulations. So we're going to start off on Saturday talking about rules and regulations.
Let me pause for just a second here, because I know that we have some non-Texas Masons, and we just used a lot of Texas Mason lingo there.
Yeah, and I figured about that.
In Texas Masonry, as with any nonprofit, you can set up your bylaws however you want. You can set your bylaws up, set what's important to you. Your organization votes on them. In Texas Masonry, that then has to go, once you decide as a lodge, it has to go to the Grand Lodge. The Grand Lodge has to review and approve your bylaws, and then those bylaws become functional. If you want to change your bylaws, you have to amend it, and then you have to submit that to Grand Lodge. And all of this has to happen at Grand Communication as well.
Yes, and it has to be approved.
It has to be approved and voted on by the Grand Communication. And that is a very cumbersome task. And so many lodges asked for, and we received this Form 23, which is a generic bylaw statement that can be used by any lodge in the state of Texas. It handles all of the bylawsy things, all the legalese. It addresses everything. Then there's a separate document. Once you've adopted the Form 23 generic bylaws, there's a separate document that lodges can choose to create called the Rules and Regulations. This is where you plug in things like dress code that you might not want in your bylaws because you don't need the Grand Lodge to decide that for you. So you set up your dress code. You set up like the jobs of the various wardens and brethren that are going to, what are their unofficial duties aside from what are the official duties? Anything that you want that are just the lodge decides, and this is going to be a cultural aspect of your lodge, that's going to go in your rules and regulations. It's easy to change because the lodge can do it basically at the drop of a hat.
They can do it whenever. And the
it's
reason
not
we do
important
it,
stuff.
and the reason we do it that way is because the rules and regulations only apply to members of 148, and it's also a way for us to set things into motion without having to go before Grand Lodge, get approval, wait for that process and all that kind of stuff.
And we're limited to doing it once a year, whereas with the rules and regulations, we can be a little bit more nimble in addressing things. Like if we want to address something with the budget, we can put something in the rules and regulations that limits how money is spent above and beyond the regular rules that nonprofits have to organize by. So that, just to give you a little bit of context, I know that gets into the weeds of Texas Masonry, and for the Texas Masons, you probably just rolled your eyes and tuned out for the last 3 minutes.
Right.
But for those of us who are not from Texas, it is a little bit more of a distinction without a difference. But
welcome to the grand jurisdiction of Texas.
We want you to know what's going on here. So that's why we did it that way.
Yeah. So we're gonna talk about rules and regulations, and then probably about an hour before lunch, before noon, we're going to stop and we're going to have the family session. And this is the meat and potatoes of the weekend. And that is an opportunity for the folks that are there to have that open, brotherly, free space to bring before everyone their concerns. Maybe there's things that they're seeing that the lodge is or is not doing that they feel needs to be addressed. Again, this is the family business. And so the reason that we put that there is, one, we wanted to put it before lunch so that we have a time frame, because we know that when we leave that open door, things can just keep going and going. So we have that time frame. But we also wanted to be able to lead that into lunch. Maybe that would lead to conversations while people are eating, so that when we come back from lunch, we're back in rules and regulations, and we can, as a group, go, okay, these were some of the things that we heard. Do we need to address these in the rules and regulations, or is this something that isn't necessarily needing to be in the rules and regulations? Is this just a conversation that we need to have? I will speak for myself as a Texas Mason. I think oftentimes when we go to Grand Lodge, we have legislation that's written that's trying to address an issue that may only be at your lodge. So it's not necessary to legislate it for everyone else in that kind of spirit. That's why if we have these conversations, we can go back and go, is it necessary for us to codify this into the rules and regulations? Or is this just a conversation that we need to have with a particular person, a particular group, those types of things?
Yeah, it's when we say family business, we're really speaking euphemistically. It's the challenges that any organization faces where there's personalities and there's things that we want to do and there are things that we think we should do that would be better than what we're doing. This is where we hold a mirror up to our lodge and we say, who are we? What are we doing? What are we doing not so well? And what are we not accomplishing at all? And then we evaluate, should we even be doing some of these things?
This is not Brandy sitting at the end of the table like Don Corleone, where we're like kissing the ring, and I'm so glad the family could be here to do business.
The worst Marlon Brando I've ever heard in my life.
Hey, listen,
I love it.
You know what?
I'm here for it.
I was about to say you should be here for it.
I am here for it.
It's not that type of family business, but again, it's that safe space where we all can talk.
So I shouldn't bring the master's duel with me?
Oh, absolutely. Bring it with you, and I expect to see like a big, massive ring that like everyone has to kiss and like pledge fidelity to.
That would be hilarious.
It is Worshipful Master, please.
Oh yes,
please address me as Worshipful
Master. That's right. We're gonna get to that after lunch. We'll finish up with rules and regulations, so we have something that we can take back to the lodge. And then we have a couple other brothers that are going to be presenting some things. We have someone that's going to be presenting on leadership. What does leadership look like? Those types of things. It's really his cup of tea. So he wanted to do that. And then we have another brother, a past master, that's going to be discussing the use of Slack. So for those of you that have heard us say this before, at 148 we use Slack. It's like an app that we can communicate with each other and do stuff like that. So we're going to talk a little bit about Slack etiquette, what we can do on there. And then he wanted to talk about the standards of dress. Like, what should gentlemen be wearing? Should you wear black and brown together? Those types of things. So honestly, one of the things that's a little bit different this year than it was from last year is we have a lot more brothers that said, hey, at Lodge Summit, could I present on this? And we just opened it up. So once we're finished with those things right there, it'll probably be about 6 or 7. We're going to have dinner, which is make your own steak and potatoes, which is always a hit. We have the grill going. You put whatever kind of seasonings you want on your steak. You can cook it wherever you want.
Grill is very undersized in what we have.
Yeah.
It's a massive fire pit.
Yeah. And
yeah, you could
people could die.
You could cook you could roast a pig on it.
Probably.
You could have a luau on it.
And then honestly, after that, the business for the day is done. We have a whole evening that we get to just hang out with each other, have conversations, eat, do whatever. And then we're going to get up on Sunday morning. Evve's going to lead us in a small devotional, and then we're headed home.
Yeah. And so it's really a great, I think, best practice. I would definitely commend it to any lodge as an opportunity, not just to deal with lodge business and not just to deal with the contentious issues that come up in running a lodge. The fellowshipping is second to none. I love going to Grand Communication every year. It's something I look forward to no other. I love the fellowship. I love being able to hang out with my brothers, spend time. It's amazing. This is on par with the kind of fellowshipping that you get at Grand Lodge.
I will say, and Evve, if I remember correctly, you had said something about this one time, but it's the idea that like we can fellowship with each other and spend a few hours with each other after lodge and that. But there's something different about the fact when you are spending such an enormous amount of time and let's be honest, you have food together, you get relaxed at the same place.
You're living together for a weekend. And there's nothing will expose who you really are quite like spending a traveled weekend with someone, whether that be a romantic partner or whether that be a friend. You suddenly learn all the things about somebody, and you can't fake who you are in those environments.
Nope.
Because you are literally exposed in all of your habits are out there. Everybody gets to see who you really are. And that is something that bonds people together in ways that that you can't recreate over a pint at a pub.
No, when you finally figure out who in your lodge also wears the CPAP to go to bed, that's an extra step in the brotherhood.
More like who doesn't.
Oh yeah,
I
well,
don't.
okay.
But
With the one oddball.
yeah.
Really.
But even still,
Yet.
you learn all right with the size that my belly is growing. It's not going to be much longer. But the issue, I think, is so many brothers don't really know each other. And this allows us to get to know each other. It allows us to get to talk about things and to get to talk about really deep subjects. We get way beyond the surface. We get really into the kinds of conversations that make a difference in someone's life.
And I would say
Masonry.
Yeah, and I would say for those of you that are listening that are like, my lodge can't afford to get an Airbnb, or my lodge can't afford to do what you're talking about. Let me be of an encouragement to you. Think about it this way. If your lodge can't afford an Airbnb, does a brother have a large piece of land where you guys can go and camp overnight? Could you make it to where a registration fee covers, we'll say, 4 or 5 hotel rooms at a local Hampton Inn? My wife, her ladies organization, and I'll say it, by the way, our Lodge Summit was inspired by what my wife did with her ladies organization. And what the ladies would do is they would pay I think it was $100, but there was enough of them, and they would get 4 or 5 hotel suites, and they met in one of the big suite rooms. And this is what they did. And when they had breakout sessions, they went back to these individual suites and did things like that. So there's all different kinds of ways that you can put this together. You don't have to think about, I got to spend all this money to rent an Airbnb. Start where you're at. You know what? Many of us that grew up in the 90s remember lock-ins. Maybe it would be cool for you guys to have a lodge lock-in where you guys sleep in the lodge room.
Bring a sleeping bag and a pillow and come to the lodge and do something. There are lots of ways to do things like this, but the important thing is that you have to be with each other for a protracted period of time.
Yes.
For these sorts of things to be effective. Like just going up to, a lot of this stuff that we could talk about it during a lodge meeting. Sure. Let's be honest. All of the things that we've just talked about could be handled at a stated meeting. Would it be effective? Would it be worthwhile? Would it be as harmonious as is? Because even though we're talking about some difficult topics, especially during the family business section, it's still kept really harmonious. Everything is always addressed respectfully and handled in the most respectful tone. And so we don't get disharmony from even talking about difficult family business.
No, and you're exactly right. Part of the reason that we wanted to do something like this is because with the longer period of time that you're together, the more organic things kind of happen, and it seems like people are a little bit more open. And
the grace abounds. It's like church language.
They're a little more open. They I guess the way is, it feels like they're almost like soaking in the brotherhood, and it loosens them up and gets them going. And if you do that for a couple of hours, you're just getting started. But if you're with your brothers for a weekend, by Sunday, you're a well-oiled machine.
Yeah, and you know each other in a much better way.
And
you get their motivation. I think that's probably the key that I haven't really sensed until right now, is that suddenly you understand people's motivations. You understand where they're coming from, and you see them as a full and fully embodied human being, not just some caricature that you see at lodge every month, where you only talk to them in a very rudimentary way. Whenever you're spending a weekend with them, you get past all that stuff and you get to see them as a fully embodied human being with their peccadillos and all, and you see the baggage that they're carrying around, and you get to know them in a way that you wouldn't otherwise get to know them. And suddenly it makes the difficult conversations much easier, because you realize that we're all on the same journey and we all desire the same thing for our lodge. We want our lodges to be successful. We might all have different ideas about how to achieve that end, but we still want our lodge to succeed. And once you can see the other person who you might disagree with about a certain plan or a certain event or a certain fundraiser or a certain dues structure, that person who's seems to be always the thorn in the side, when you see them as a fully formed person, it humanizes them in a way that we need. So you can't dismiss them quite so readily anymore. And even if you disagree with them, at least you disagree with them from a human place.
And the other thing that I can say here too is that the Lodge Summit also contributes to that shared experience that we have as brothers. We can, years from now, we can talk about, do you remember at Lodge Summit when we did this? So it's that shared experience.
When Brandy almost burned off his eyebrows.
True.
That wasn't me, and it was more than eyebrows. It was multiple people that almost burned down everything.
Yeah, that was fun.
Listen, it was something that was happened. It's a memory that we all have.
It's a memory.
Yeah, absolutely. So that is, in a nutshell, if that's what you want to say, that is Lodge Summit.
Sounds good.
That's really the only thing we want to talk about today. We're all three of us are really excited about it. I'm super stoked about it. And if you have any questions about how you would do your summit, if you have you want to talk to one of us about how we put it together, like what is the budget of it, because it's not as honestly, it is not nearly as expensive as you might think. I think that let's be transparent. I think we spend what, $750 or less total on this event.
No,
The Airbnb was at 12.
the Airbnb is about $1,500.
Okay, so $1,500 plus that's what the lodge is out.
Yeah, it's
Right.
And
it's off season.
And then
we're
a
getting it off
$50
season.
registration
and then
fee
a
for
$50
each.
registration for food. All in all, the lodge is out $1,500, and then each individual person who's going is $50 out. And we could easily have rolled that into the number of people who are going, because we have enough people where we could have absorbed the cost.
Yeah.
And it would have probably been, what about another $50 for the Airbnb?
We'll say an additional $100.
So you're looking at, even if we did not, the lodge did not pay for this, it would still be very affordable for us all to be able to go to this event for $150 each and have this event. So if you're thinking about budgeting,
a place to sleep, you get your food. So we have, so for the
for
registration,
150
yeah,
for
the
3 days and
registration,
food, you're set.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure where you could go on a vacation and get as much for as little.
1985, maybe.
Yeah, you could go to 1985. So if you have any questions about this, if you really are looking for how you can do it, for some tips and tricks and some things like you need to avoid this or you need to lean into this, we have some great ideas that we're happy to offer up to anybody who's interested. Give one of us a call, or a text message, or comment down below. We'll definitely help you out in any way we can if it's something you're interested in. We're not trying to be prescriptive here. We're not preaching from an ivory tower. Nope. We are definitely just saying this is a great idea that we had and that we thought it made a difference in our lodge. So if it make a difference in our lodge, maybe it'll make a difference in yours. So having said all of that, gentlemen, is there anything else on your minds about Lodge Summit that we want to talk about before we close up?
Nope, we're just
Nothing?
ready to get there.
Fantastic. Let's wrap things up. My name is Evve Kirkendall, and I am signing off.
Brandy Patton, sign off.
And this is Cody Cox signing off.
Have a great day, gentlemen.